Right, we're having beans this morning.
Beans for breakfast. There's no better breakfast, is there?
I like beans on toast for breakfast.
So do I. I would actually call myself a baked beans connoisseur.
Would you? Well, we can put you to the test. Tell us what the story is.
The story is, you might think beans, you might think Heinz. Heinz means beans.
Beans means Heinz.
Beans means Heinz. Heinz means beans. Who knows? So, of all of the supermarket baked beans, it is actually the Aldi supermarket version, this version over here, which came out on top. The Bramwell's baked beans, 76% on the taste test.
And they're much cheaper as well.
Much cheaper. Households can save, if you're buying 2 cans a week, £100 a year buying the Aldi version of these baked beans. So we thought we're going to do a blind taste test this morning.
Yes.
To see.
So we've got the Aldi beans, we've got M&S beans, and we've got beans Heinz. So I think number 2 is the best one.
Yeah, I agree.
Right,
Two came first best to me.
So the Heinz is number 3.
Interesting.
Which was the worst one?
Which is the worst one, which is the ones, actually, I'll buy it home.
Do you know what? That's just proven it. M&S was number one. And Aldi was number two, which was our favourite as well.
I said M&S.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we both said Aldi.
We did say Aldi. I have to be honest, I was not expecting that.
I told you. This is the hill I will die on. These are the beans that I get at home and I love them.
They are
At
actually.
university, you get the tin that's half that size, and it was 21p for the store ones and 23p for Heinz baked beans. And as I say, the key was in the thickness of the sauce and how hard the beans were.
They actually are really nice.
Stunning.
They're really. I am
Stunning.
really surprised, and we buy more than 2 cans a week, so it saved me a couple of £100.
We get through 2 cans.
you like the
in
Aldi ones?
city.
I like the Aldi ones. I'm shocked.
They're a lot
There you
cheaper.
go.
Yeah.
GBNews, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, this Sunday when I interview one of the most significant political figures of our era, Boris Johnson. Nothing will be off limits as we discuss his autobiography, Unleashed, and everything in it.
I failed to avert Megxit, but I did deliver Brexit. And I'm very, very happy to be on Camilla Tominey's show, Boris Johnson on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show on Sunday at 9:30 a.m. and again at 6 p.m.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at Saturday's newspapers with 3 out-of-work comedians. I'm Josh Howie. Joining me tonight is whippersnapper Jonathan Cogan and on a playdate, Adam Kumas.
Hello.
Hello, how are you both?
Out of work.
Well, I mean...
Told you that in confidence.
It's Friday night, none of us are gigging.
Why are we gigging? What's wrong with us?
I am getting paid for this, though, to be fair.
You're getting paid?
You two do it voluntarily. I get paid for this.
I do it for the love and the free biscuits.
I'm still on work experience. I really need to have a look at my my contract.
Your CV, you should write one.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Yeah, it's Jewish New Year. We're through it.
To those who celebrate, we made
Yes,
it. Just
indeed.
about.
Another year. Go Jews!
That's what people say.
Yeah,
Congrats.
you happy with that, Adam?
Yeah, congrats. Cool.
Thank
Happy for you guys.
And so you and Adam,
Sorry
you
about
just,
your pager as well, man.
Yeah,
Adam, you've just come from a building site. You've been building-
Yeah, so taking off some cladding on some of the buildings and put some cladding on some other buildings.
Okay, well, good for you. I hope it was the good stuff.
I need a haircut.
Right, we're going to have a look at Saturday's front pages. First of all, we have The Times. Staff to get more rights from first day at work. The Eye Weekend. UK warning to Israel. Attack on Iran nuclear sites could drag region into a war because, you know, there's no war going on right now. The Guardian. Police took bribes to help Al-Fayed persecute staff. The Daily Telegraph. Foreign aid cut sparks cabinet rebellion. Daily Mirror. Strictly Nick. I'm out. And finally, the Daily Star. Beam us up, Scotty. And those are your front pages. Jonathan, lots of news on the Daily Telegraph.
There's actually quite a lot of interesting stories on the front cover of the Telegraph. I think I might take a whip round some of the small ones. Lots of good news. So, bullying of women normalised in Navy. 1 in 50 Albanians in the UK are in prison. OK, maybe not great news. Sworn down how the F word lost its bite. I guess you meant to say queer, I guess. And then, Josh, a story for you. White guys in your 50s, you don't matter.
That's a little bit...
In your 50s?
48.
Thank you so much. And I really
You look 47, Josh.
Thank you. I haven't dyed my beard now for a couple of weeks. Been a bit busy.
Yeah.
But I will re-dye my beard and then I will go back to 43.
I think you look youthful and spry.
And what are you guys? 31s, 30?
Yeah, let's just stick with that.
Yeah, why
Whatever
not?
it is.
Yeah,
None of you have kids, right?
Old enough.
No.
No, well, that's why
happy.
you're...
Not in this country.
Wait
no.
till that will add the 10
Yeah.
years. So what are the big stories?
The big story in the Telegraph: foreign aid cut sparks cabinet rebellion. I read it in a weird way. OK, so if we get the cover up. Rachel Reeves' plan to cut almost $2 billion from the foreign aid budget has sparked quite a lot of cabinet backlash. So I think there's been some controversy here, and David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, is among one of the ministers who is not happy about this, about the cuts to foreign aid. But I think what this story ties into is now it's up when I'm not looking down, is the general anxieties that are surrounding the upcoming budget. And I think there's a lot of stress about what's going to be cut, and I think all tax hikes. And this is just another one of those where it's caused quite a bit of a disagreement within the Labour Party.
Yes, so, I mean, Adam, first of all, Labour come in, one of the first things they do is that they are going to cut, they're going to make pensioners... So, arguably some people say freeze to death. And now, not only content with that, now they're going to make African pensioners freeze to death.
Yeah. I mean, I don't...
Is there no end to their develry?
I think some of the countries in Africa have a slightly different climate to ours. I think.
But if they said
No. I remember feed them at Chris, Mount Kilimanjaro, whatever. Like it's snow. Don't they know it's snowing? And then it was snowing.
Don't they know it's Christmas?
Yeah. And whatever.
Yeah, which is all part of the Christian push. No, I think, I think the honeymoon period is definitely over for the Labour Party.
Locking up people for free speech.
Yes. I think what everyone's looking at is... I think we're back in the same position we were a few months ago, where everybody hated the government and everyone's now just like, they want to...
Now, I'm going to disagree with both of your political insight here. I would say there are a lot of people out there who are actually very supportive of this. A lot of people you see a lot of time on social media say, why are we spending billions we can't even feed our own, or why instead of giving it to the pensioners, why are we sending and it's only $2 billion they're cutting out of however many other billions. So it's going to be the lowest it's been for 17 years. That doesn't mean that money isn't still being spent. And there's an argument, of course, morally to spend that money, but also the prevention, or by bringing up other societies or cultures around the world, the argument is that they'd be less inclined to want to come to the UK.
So it's protecting the economic interests of the UK by spending outside.
That's the idea behind it, but... and having soft power and various other reasons. There are legitimate reasons to do it, but at the same time, there have been a lot of people who say, this is British people's taxpayers' money, and we are suffering here. There are people in this country who need that money more, arguably. So I think that surely that would play.
Yeah, I mean,
that,
if it's spent on the British people, they should let people know, because that's an easy win, But I don't think I think they're just cutting it. And they're not really saying where it's going to go. And I think people are very sceptical, myself included, of. Are we going to see an inherent boost? Is that going to be reinvested in our education systems or the NHS or something given to the pensioners? I don't think it will be. So I think that's where people are getting disillusioned by.
Before we do move on to the next paper, I do want to just go back to one of the stories you mentioned, Jonathan. There's 1 in 50 Albanians in the UK are in prison.
Yes.
Is interesting because it's I believe the first time there's ever been the first league of criminality due to nationality. And I know that there have been certain people who I've seen on this channel who have been campaigning. I think Robert Jenrick is one of those people, who are talking about how we have to get to grips with the data to understand who are committing crimes. And it's only and that data has been sort of withheld even with Freedom of Information Act. And this seems to be the first time that some of this stuff is now coming.
I actually prefer feelings over facts, if that's okay.
OK, I get that vibe about you. What do you think about this? Is this a step in the right direction?
I mean, I think transparency of any form is always a step in the right direction. I think,
No, statistics are racist.
We've got the trans stuff coming up in the next section.
Yeah, so I think transparency. I think any sort of new data that comes out, this one is about Albanians, but it'd be good to maybe get a percentage or some numbers on what the breakdown of everyone in prison is.
And different crimes that are committed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's only with data can you actually maybe start to solve some issues. Right, Adam, let's have a look at the Times then.
Yeah, so this is from the Times, and this is the headline says, staff to get more rights from the first day at work. So you might have seen that this is Labour is going to overhaul basically some of these rights for workers, and this includes concessions for bosses. And this basically means there's going to be a lot more people who might be sort of entitled off the bat to sick pay, maternity leave. I don't think Kemi Badenoch would be happy about that with maternity, and also...
She was misrepresented.
She was misrepresented, and her name is Badenoch. Everyone calls her Badenoch, but it's Badenoch. She doesn't have bad name.
I call her Kemi.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's nice.
Enoch,
That's sweet. Yeah. And also, what's interesting is this right to switch off, which is interesting because before I did comedy full time, employed, thank you, I used to have a day job like everyone else, and there used to be a company WhatsApp chat, which is as sickening and disgusting as it sounds. 100 odd people in there, and it was
very odd people.
it was every hour of every day, including the weekends when you weren't supposed to be on work. It was pinging around, people are saying, responding, and
pictures of willies.
No, but there's a lot of.
That's our WhatsApp group.
Yeah,
you mean Cressida?
There were a lot
like,
of.
How about this dude?
Not silly people in the chat, but yeah, I think that idea to fully disconnect from work is a huge one.
Jonathan, obviously, you're a big fan of the right to switch off. That's what
people are doing it right now.
You're doing it, yeah.
Sorry, I stepped on your.
No. I was making a joke about you, but you've just denigrated our audience.
Yeah,
just halved it. So thanks a lot for that. Put it away. So only the reason why I'm saying that is because the audience might not see at home, but I just got a very uncomfortable view. Is there anything in here about staff rights, about not having to see people's testicles, for example?
No, I think in showbiz it's implied.
OK, so this is obviously one of Labour's flagship policies. They've been talking about this before they got into power. This is what they've been planning. Now they're implementing it their first 100 days and whatnot.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see if there's going to be any backlash, if that's going to lead to maybe a downtick, when rights go up somewhere, rights go down somewhere else.
That would be with the employers finding generally incurring greater expense, and which obviously in multinational corporation doesn't seem to be so much of a problem. When it's a small business that's struggling to survive and then has to adhere to a bunch more regulation, then that can be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Right, let's move on now to The Guardian, Jonathan.
Yes. OK, The Guardian, there's some fun stories again on here. 12 ways you're ruining your sex life.
Why is there a picture of a rabbit? I
think the rabbits unfortunately become it's the most sexualised animal, I think. Anne Summers had a whole rabbit range.
I feel like
I thought it's because hares weren't sexy.
I don't know. I don't know how rabbits feel about that. This sort of sexualisation of them.
They don't have a choice. Well, Playboy was all bunny.
Yes. Okay. Fine. I just think that they should stick on a picture of an attractive man. That's all I'm saying.
OK, well, maybe you'll get that. Maybe.
OK. Fine. We've got the Joy of Beans, of course, in the top left corner.
Joy of Beans.
Classic farty Guardian.
Yeah.
And we've got some actual proper stories here.
Yeah, as long as they don't cut to my face whilst I'm reading it. OK. Police took bribes to help Al-Fayed persecute staff. Metropolitan police officers have allegedly taken bribes of hampers, as well as cash bribes, to help Al-Fayed persecute staff. So there's a bunch of different things that have been reported here. So actually, one of his nannies was going to report a sexual assault or something.
Advance or something.
Yeah, advance.
Hasslement.
Right, and then he essentially allegedly paid off the police.
OK. I think we can take the paper off now.
There I am.
Are the complaints coming in that thick and fast? They're like, just leave the paper up for the entire show.
Wait, we've got one
instead of cutting to Jonathan, let's just have the paper up.
Well, look, I've said my bit now. I'm not doing it again.
All right. This is quite a serious story. There's going to be...
It's been ruined.
No, there's going to be a review about what happened with these sexual assaults.
Yeah.
But they're saying now to bring in this element of the police, about dodgy police, and it's not a good look. So obviously they're old
bunch
now.
Of crooked cops.
Well, this is like they're probably in their 70s or whatever, but the fact is that they were allowed to intimidate and break the law using their position.
Yeah. Absolutely.
For a hamper. And those hampers are good.
It's not even a Fortnum & Mason hamper.
Fortnum & Masons are better than Harrods.
100%.
Holy... For Ofcom reasons, I have to say that Harrods also do good hampers.
Other hampers are available.
You're not getting sponsored.
I'm more of a boots hamper. All right, so let's look at some of the other stories here. We've got Naomi Campbell. I failed in my duties as a charity trustee. This is quite interesting. So she had a charity called Fashion for Relief. They got about £5 million, and over the last 5 years or so, they've given away 10% of it. And lots of it was spent on things like luxury hotels.
And kettles that she could throw at staff.
So I imagine she sort of approached. She approached. I imagine. Look, it's always good to start a charity, but you've got to kind of follow through. And I imagine she went up to a lot of her sort of contacts and went, "Hey, give us some money. We're going to help the world." Yeah. And they gave her this money, and then they.
Yeah. It's you know what? It's always when I was in college, there was a lot of people, a lot of students doing sponsored trips around the world.
Oh, yeah.
And they'd be like, we're going to go walk the Great Wall of China, and if you give us money, we're going to do this for charity. And I was thinking, how are we paying for the day? Are we paying for your trip to walk around China?
Check this out. I was doing the Comedy Store weekend, humble brag.
Oh, nice.
But don't book me anymore. And when they used to pay cash, and when the guy came with the cash, he was like, "Oh, would you mind sponsoring me for the marathon?" And you're standing there, you've got a weekend's worth of money. Yeah. You're like,
I want to have your cash, mate.
That is wrong. Because, as people know, you have to pay to do the marathon, essentially.
Yeah.
Or, like, as a charity.
They should do that out of their own pocket.
That's like when you come out of Greg's and the guy's like, the homeless man's like, "Do you have any food?" And you're like, "No, you just stuff a whole sausage roll in your mouth in 2 seconds."
Is that what it is? Wow, you've got a lot of sins to go to synagogue for. One final story. Iran vows Hezbollah will return stronger. Now, what is interesting about this story is that the leader of Iran, Al Khamenei, or whatever his name is, the BBC decided to basically show 40 minutes of his weekly sermon. That's so. Look, GB News, we get some criticism, and some of it's fair. But I'm pretty sure that you ain't going to see 40 minutes of a leader of a terrorist state.
You get a full hour.
Yeah. he refuses to do GB. He says it's too right wing. So yeah.
Yeah, fine, fair enough. And then very, very quickly, let's just do the start. Adam,
there's going to be a hurricane.
There we go. That was very quick. That is the front page is obliterated. Coming up. No, get rid of that star. We don't need to see it anymore. Coming up after the break, we have more chaos. Labour keeping their freebies, and BBC finds out what it's like to lose money. See you in 2.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This week, Free Speech Brighton, a sister group of the Free Speech Union, claimed that they were kicked out of a pub in the city for discussing trans issues in schools. The group booked a room in a pub for an evening of speeches and discussion when they claimed security guards came and asked them to leave after one speaker began to talk about this topic. Now, a clip of the evening was, in fact, posted to social media. Can you give us some background to what happened, what the event was for, and why you booked it?
Our normal pub was being refurbished, so about 3 weeks ago I went in and booked a local pub for a meeting, and they didn't ask any questions about what sort of meeting. It was in a back room. It was mainly secluded from the rest of the pub, so I thought it would be fine. But anyway, they didn't ask any questions. They took my booking. We arrived, I set up. The first speaker started speaking, who's a retired teacher who was concerned about trans in schools and how that affects children. But she was talking purely about children. She was not talking about adults who have protected characteristics, obviously. And then towards the end of her speech, I became aware of security guards standing behind me in the middle room. So I went to have a quick word with them and see what they wanted. And they said, we've had a complaint. And I said, what's the complaint? And they wouldn't say. Then they said, will you come and talk to the landlord? So I went to the front of the bar and they indicated this chap was the landlord, but he looked about 20, so I don't think he was the landlord. So I said, I hear you have a complaint about us. Can you tell me what it is? And he couldn't.
That sounds very Kafkaesque, as though you've committed a crime, but they can't tell you what the crime is.
That's what I couldn't understand, because, you might... Obviously, they can't tell you who the complainant is, but they should be able to tell you what the complaint is.
GB News, the People's Channel. Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, covering tomorrow's newspapers today, unless you're watching today and unless you're watching from the future, in which case I hope they've invented a cure for baldness. I'm Josh Howie, joined this evening by the Ute of Headliners, Jonathan Cogan and Adam Kumas. Jonathan, let's start this section with Saturday's Express and what's next? Giving back Wales?
If anyone will take it, Josh. So Keir Starmer defends... Oh, here comes the hate. Keir Starmer defends Chagos Island's decision as Argentina...
Chagos? Chagos?
Chagos.
If you're Jewish, it's Chagos.
And if you're...
Otherwise, if you're American, it's Chagos.
It's not ours anymore. We don't need to...
yeah, we don't care. We don't have to pronounce it. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Goodbye,
Wheels.
Chagos.
OK, go.
So Keir Starmer defends Chagos Island's decision as Argentina targets Falklands next. So Keir Starmer has defended his decision to give up those islands to a Chinese ally, despite widespread fury from the international community, coming from English politicians, coming from American politicians. So the deal to hand back sovereignty included provisions for the UK to make sure that we continue using Diego Garcia. I assume that's just...
military base?
Pretty
and
sure,
America gets to use
pretty
it
sure it's one of the Grateful Dead.
99 years.
Oh, very, yeah.
So we get to keep that for 99 years, which is an important base for English intelligence and military operations. Yeah. But yeah, there's basically a lot of stress around this because it feels like we've given an important part of our...
remaining empire.
A very dwindling one island in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But this is important. Now, it should be pointed out, this is a continuation of a Tory policy. They negotiated 11 times, and it kept on going back to the drawing board. Labour being about, they negotiated twice. So either Labour are just amazing negotiators, or they've been done in by here. Yeah. Now, there's talk here about Boris Johnson, GB News presenter, says... that this is political correctness gone mad, or whatever, i.e. it's decolonisation, or that would be the claim. It's giving back the empire, or whatever we have.
You know, when people say, we need to decolonise literature, I guess it does make sense to decolonise a colony. That's the only thing you can actually decolonise. But whether or not this is a good idea, let's ask Adam.
I like the fact that we had it.
We had it and don't have it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, did we sell it? Did we at least make a good bit of money?
No, I don't think we did, and we're going to have to probably pay some stuff in the end. I know we should make some money.
I think Lord Ali gave it away for free.
I think my favourite stuff that happens around this time is how political commentators suddenly become experts in Mauritius. I've got 3 hours to know how to say Mauritius properly at Chagos Island. The other thing, of course, Adam, is... now people are saying, now the Falklands. Is this some sort of like giving them like sort of go, oh well, look, if they're giving back that, the Falklands are sort of going, oh well.
Well, yeah, we can take, and it does, to be fair, like the optics of this does look like, well, if you're just giving stuff back, we'll have ours back, please. And I think what was interesting, there was a statement earlier made on Thursday. The Falklands governor, Alison Blake, reassured residents, saying, well, actually, we're not going to give back the Falklands. It's a very different issue. And
it's like, definitely giving it back.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, Keir Starmer was actually asked if he was going to give it back. He says, no, I don't give a fork.
Nice.
Yeah, or he's going to give £6,000.
He was asked, and he kind of fudged the issue. Everybody freaked out. Yeah. So on the front pages, it says, Keir Starmer doesn't say he's going to get... And then number 10 had to be like, no, we're definitely... Don't worry, we're not giving it back. And the Falklands are a very have a very different history. You know, the Argentinians are not indigenous to the Falkland Islands.
Yeah.
It was just they got it, you know, from Spain, whatever. So it's very different.
Give back the sausages.
I'm learning. Okay, Sun now, Jonathan, and did Bibby bug Boris's bog? I'll say that 100 times. Did Bibby bug Boris's bog? Okay, go.
Did Bibi bugger Boris's...
Bibby, Bobby, Bory, bog. Okay.
Right. Listening device discovered in Boris Johnson's toilet just days after it was used by Benjamin Netanyahu. So in his new memoir...
That's a big poo.
Say again?
That's a big poo.
It is. It's something he's swallowed. So in his new memoir, Unleashed, Bojo writes that...
Is that what it was all about, literally?
Unleashing.
This big poo?
Yeah, it's all about his toilet adventures. Boris on the bog. So apparently, this is 2017. Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu came...
It's Mr. now, is it, for you? Now suddenly you respect him after his activities with Hezbollah.
Exactly.
Before you were very derogatory, and now it's Mr. Netanyahu.
I was always more of a Netin Google man. No, stupid. But quite clever. And basically, Boris Johnson had his toilet, which was called... He called it the Thunderbox, apparently, which is a great name for a toilet. And a few days after he left, his agents did a sweep for bugs and found one.
Yeah.
Could have been him. I don't know.
We don't know.
No state secret is worth learning if you have to listen to Boris Johnson on the toilet.
Well, this is it, Adam. Why are you bugging a toilet? Like, what are you hoping to hear? You're hoping that someone's going to do some drugs in there?
Yeah.
You're hoping there's going to be some sexual activity? Or there's just a lot of straining?
It's going to be a lot.
For me, it's crying. That's what I got to cry.
It's going to be
toilet.
It's not a good place. I just like the idea that Benjamin Netanyahu is like putting these things in himself. Like he's just like tinkering around.
It probably has nothing to do with...
He hasn't got a guy for that. He's just doing it himself.
And also, it's probably got nothing to do with Mossad. This might just be like a private hobby of his.
Yeah, or none of it really happened. It's just a good little private for his new book that's coming out next week.
Which one? No, hey, come on, no, I'm sure. But there's no evidence there.
No, there's no evidence.
You know.
Also, just the one. I mean, Japanese toilets have cameras and everything. Like, why have we got?
I pay for one of those websites.
Yeah. Oh wow. There you go.
Right. Okay. Adam, The Guardian has a story next on the true victims of October 7th.
ShitakiBathrooms.com. Sorry, carry on.
That's okay. Do you want to tell the story?
Yes, of course. So this is from The Guardian. This is the headline reads: a record amount of anti-Muslim abuse has been reported in the UK since the 7th of October attacks. Now, this is from The Guardian, which is why it probably focuses on anti-Muslim abuse. It does later on go to talk about there's been a sharp rise also in anti-Semitism in the UK. And there's independent trustees for both communities that have reported, I think it was 4,971 incidents of anti-Muslim hate and 5,500 anti-Semitic incidents.
Yes, we win!
Yeah, because that is what this is about, Josh.
The Jews win! We win!
Yeah, so
per capita...
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So obviously tensions are high, and obviously it's a shame that any sort of resentment or hate has left that conflicted area and it's come to the UK. I've always been a big advocate and said it's disgusting when anyone uses as an example to use violence on both sides.
That's what you say on air.
Yeah, that's exactly what I say on air, and then off air. I'm exactly the same. I'm a good guy. But yeah, I think this is. They were also saying this. There was the anti-Muslim hate, particularly was fueled by the riots that we had recently during the summer.
Well, not necessarily fueled, but maybe expressed.
Expressed, yeah.
Right, as opposed to there might be other things fueling
other things there, yeah.
Let's talk per capita, Jonathan. There are 250,000 Jews in the UK. There are 4 million Muslims. So, by my little maths, it seems like hate against Jews is 16 times higher.
Yes. Yeah, relative.
Yes.
And have you worked it out to you specifically what the rate is?
Well, I know,
a lot higher,
before,
100%.
Everybody says it was about October 7th, but it also coincides with me being on television more.
Yeah.
So it could have had
you
something...
single-handedly raised the stats.
It might be. Or me and Lewis Schaefer.
You're like the Jewish Ben Shapiro.
Another thing I just want to say is, it says here there's been a lot of street and online level, and British Muslims have been called Hamas, Hezbollah, terrorists and killers. And those are not just the ones who carry Hamas flags.
Well, that's the thing. You've seen...
Am I going to get in trouble for that?
Yeah, I mean, it's terrible to say, but you've seen,
We've seen the peace
Hamas
marches.
flags at these events. And it's just like, well, this is over supporting of designated terrorist groups. So it's terrible. But that doesn't mean...
No, that doesn't. And one thing I do like about this also, I mean, look, yes, of course, any hatred towards any group, any bigotry is a bad thing. What's that?
Furries?
Not furries. Furries, I don't mind.
Okay.
I like how they use anti-Muslim as a term more than Islamophobia. They do mention Islamophobia. I think anti-Muslim bigotry is a much better way to go in terms of using this as a descriptive term. And, you know, obviously this needs to be opposed and highlighted. I would say, how do I sort of say this in a sort of nice way without getting me too much trouble? There is a problem within... I'd be curious to know what percentage of this anti-Muslim bigotry is from Jews and what percentage of anti-Semitism is from Muslims.
We
practice,
that,
there is a problem within the Muslim community
Mm.
with bigotry. And it feels a little bit like frustrating to go, oh, we'd be victims of it. It's like, you're also, there's a lot of hatred. Of course, not all Muslims, we've got to say it, you know, and that's true, but on a segment within that community, there's a problem.
I think, I mean, again, it's hard to know without knowing the stats, I guess. But when you think of anti-Muslim hatred, which is hilarious, but like, with the way I'm sort of like wearing... when you look at these sort of stats, I guess it just sort of says you sort of think it comes from a certain group. I don't think the Jewish people are the perpetrators of this. My impression of Jewish people are, you guys are nerds. I'm sorry.
We are.
You're more. You'll write an email rather than get physical.
Sexy nerd.
But you know what? I think that we got away with that story. Yeah. We will find out in the future. Finally, in this section, the Times, Jonathan, and the BBC could lose their captive audiences' wallets.
Yes, well, don't worry, because Hezbollah bought a lot of TV licenses after the coverage that's recently been going on. So, the story in the Times, plans to decriminalise licence fee could cost BBC £1 billion, which is also known as Gary Lineker's salary. So, Nandi, backed by Shabana Mahmood, the Justice Secretary, is expected to say that the evasion of the £169.50 annual fee for a BBC TV licence should no longer be a criminal offence, and now effectively the BBC are worried that this is going to cost them a lot of money because people, knowing that it's no longer a criminal offence, are going to be emboldened, shall we say, to avoid it.
Except they can be fined, escalating fines. It's like parking tickets. It escalates and then the bailiffs get...
You don't have to pay parking tickets.
Well, let's see what happens when you get home here. Is this inevitable, Adam? And arguably also, is this the right thing to do?
I mean, I'm going to go on a limb and say I like the fact that we have a government sort of funded, or we have a British institution like the BBC. I don't like the way the BBC is going at the moment, but I do think it's important. It does separate us from the rest of the world, and I think some of our radio stations of the BBC are particularly good.
They're not going to have you on, Adam. You've done this.
No, also, it's very true.
Yeah, check out Josh how he's losing it on the BBC Sounds app.
There we go. See, Josh is doing it all right. Yeah, exactly. I do think this is inevitable, but I do think decriminalising it is just it's funny because the BBC were like so happy with Labour going forward, and they were like, oh, we're going to do great. They're going to be extra nice to us, and they're like, well, we're just going to not make it fine. People will inevitably stop paying. I'd stop paying for it if they did.
Well, sorry.
No, I was going to say, well, I think one of the reasons why this is being brought to light now is because it's a crime that particularly affects women, especially middle-aged women or older women who may be considered vulnerable, because they're the ones who often answer the door to the handsome BBC licence guy, and then they get arrested.
Is that what it is?
I didn't understand that when they said women are is that like a sly way of saying women are the ones sitting in front of TV all day? And
No, it's actually worse than that. What they're saying is they tried to make it simpler to pay following a gender disparity review, i.e. what they're saying is women are unable to work out how technologically...
I don't know how gender got into that.
No, that's what I know.
It's such a bizarre thing. Like...
It's like saying, well, women don't open their post, and that might just be my wife, by the way.
My
so there is, and also this might be connected to lack of prison spaces at the moment, lack of court time, giving over to this, so it could be freeing up that. And there is, like you say, this gender disparity element to it. I've always been a fan of the BBC until about a year ago. We're halfway, but plenty more to come, including Britain becoming atheist and the EU goes full trans. Holy moly, see you in 2.
Hello, good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, as we head into the weekend, we can expect to see lots of fine weather to start, but it is gradually turning more unsettled from the west, so we can expect to see some wet and windy weather over the weekend. And that's because this area of high pressure, which has brought us that fine weather to end the working week, is generally being replaced by low pressure as it moves in from the west. And we'll start to see this evening as outbreaks of rain continue to push into the northwest. This a little bit heavy at times, particularly towards dawn, and turning quite blustery under those cloudier skies too. But elsewhere across much of England and Wales, there'll be plenty of clear skies overnight, so turning quite chilly. May even see some pockets of mist and fog by the morning. So quite a different start in the northwest to start the weekend. Plenty of cloud around and some outbreaks of rain, and it is going to be turning rather heavy at times, particularly in western parts. Similar across Northern Ireland, a fairly cloudy start with those outbreaks of rain just starting to push into the west. But elsewhere, there should be plenty of bright skies to start the weekend. As I say, some pockets of mist and fog around, and it will be a fairly chilly start. And then generally, there is still plenty of fine and dry weather across the country, plenty of sunny spells and feeling warm where you catch the sunshine. But that rain will gradually move in more and more across Scotland, Northern Ireland, with those outbreaks of rain, and still fairly blustery under those cloudier skies. And notice these brighter colours here, so some heavy rain moving its way into parts of the far southwest later into Saturday. But as I say, where you catch the sunshine with highs of 18 degrees, it should still feel rather pleasant for the time of year. Heading into Sunday, a fairly unsettled day, plenty of cloud across the country with some outbreaks of rain. This too could be heavy at times, particularly across the southwest, southern parts of Wales later into the day. And that generally leads us into an unsettled week next week. Generally temperatures turning more towards average. So make sure you enjoy the sunshine while it's here. Bye for now.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headline as we jump back in with Saturday's Telegraph, Adam, where EU states must recognise transgender identities. OK, I'm going to admit it, Brexit was good.
Yeah, unless you're Romania, because I think that they were saying that it doesn't matter because this particular case happened before Brexit took place. But yeah, basically this is from the Telegraph, and it says the EU states must recognise transgender identities across the bloc, a top court rules. So judges in Luxembourg say Romania has broken the EU law by refusing to accept a British-Romanian transgender man's change. So this has been held as a monumental victory.
Woman becoming a man, just to help explain anybody.
A transgender man, yes. That's the. You're very good at this. Yeah,
a lot of experience the last 3 years.
Yeah, well, you had that transition yourself. Yeah. So we had that. They had that monumental victory. It's been called a monumental victory by the trans people. And yeah, this sets a precedent across the whole of Europe. And I think it's interesting because you've got like countries in Europe which would be maybe not bothered, not too bothered, and then you've got countries who are very anti this, which would be Hungary, Slovakia, Bulgaria. They've all got either laws in place, or they plan to put laws in place to prevent gender identity changes. How do I feel about this personally?
No, I'm not that bothered about that.
No, exactly. I'm not.
No, I'm not bothered about what your opinion is.
Oh, okay, good.
No, how do you feel about it?
I think the way I see it is like, look, what kind of trans person is this? Is this someone who's self-identifying, or is it one of these? Is it one of the few people who's gone through the long procedure and then they've done it the correct way?
Yeah. So this is the crux of it. Yes, this person, I believe, has had a gender recognition certificate. It takes 5 years.
Yeah.
Whatever. Now, there are arguments that still, of course, does, and it's true, doesn't change your biological sex.
No.
Also, this is a biological woman becoming a man, and that isn't going to be a threat to biological women in terms of their spaces and whatever. But there is a serious issue here because it is now, Jonathan, set a legal Jonathan! OK, this has set a legal precedent for self-ID across, countries like Spain have implemented that. Now, that is an issue now that men, biological men, can declare intact biological men, which is 90% of trans-identifying women are intact men, can now do that, and they will be able to have those rights, biological female rights, across the EU. That's an issue, John, yeah?
No, it certainly is. And what's interesting is there are certain countries like Hungary and Slovakia and Romania who have either banned or are planning to ban people legally changing their genders. So there's going to be presumably more of this conflict, people moving from one country to the next, and there won't be the same rules, which will be, I guess, uproot certain people's lifestyles if they're aiming to move from one country to the other. So it's just, it's not consistent, and they're... Yeah.
It goes against the EU project. The whole point is that laws are sort of universal.
Well, exactly, yeah. Well, look, the EU's got 2 years left.
Oh, OK, we heard it there. More Telegraph, Jonathan, and can someone please give this book festival a dictionary?
Oh, no, the dictionary's been banned from book festivals.
Oh, yeah, is it too controversial now?
It has,
There's horrible words in it.
It tries to define woman, actually.
Yes.
Oh, well, same joke. So, Cheltenham Literature Festival compares gender-critical views with racism and homophobia, all things Adam's saying he's a big fan of. So,
absolutely.
So the festival, which actually begins today, can't believe I missed that, they sent an email to everybody hosting talks at the event, asking them to follow new guidance in order to protect both themselves and the festival from complaints. So it says, if during any of your events there are any speakers who share an opinion that could be deemed controversial, you need to reinforce the fact that this is the speaker's opinion and does not belong to the festival itself. And they've also sent out an email with a bunch of things that speakers shouldn't be talking about. So it includes gender-critical views, misogyny, extreme political views, including those on migration, sexuality, etc., etc. So,
I feel, we're not going to be invited. I feel like to the Cheltenham Book Festival.
I mean, but we write a book.
In all seriousness, this surely and gender-critical people, Adam, have got very offended by this comparison. It's stating biological reality, which is a protected belief in this country now. To compare that to being racist or misogynist or homophobic or whatever is a disgusting comparison, right?
Yeah, it is. And, the book nerds need to sort their stuff out, really. When I saw that list that Jonathan just mentioned, which is saying, you can't, you shouldn't mention anything, topics about misogyny, political views, migration, sexuality, gender, military action, race, religion, ethnicity, I was just thinking, does this sound like a student union comedy gig?
Yes.
I just kind of thought, well, this is just an extension. Now they're going for
kissing is going to be switching
about this. Well, I guess the thing is, like, if this is, on a serious note, if this is what they're implementing now, where does this go? Where does this end? Does this mean like something like Salman Rushdie's Satanic Verses might be deemed offensive, and like we can't have that because then we're going back as a society to how we were, a few decades ago.
And it's essentially an arts festival preemptively censoring artists, which just seems a contradiction in terms.
Well, it's also to have this idea that you're going to have an uncontroversial book festival. Surely goes against the idea of the free expression of ideas, and anybody could get offended by anything. That doesn't make it necessarily offensive.
Well, they have like...
It's incredibly boring.
They have non-controversial sort of books, and they used to be pop-up or kids' books.
Yes.
Pre-2015.
What about this? Oh, and by the way, what about this? You know what it is? It's like it sounds like this is coming from a place of we don't want complaints.
Yeah.
That seems to be the problem now, is that all these festivals, companies, everybody...
Scared of the mob.
Just don't want a complaint. Yeah. It's like, just get used to complaints. And when people complain, just go, you know what, I agree with you, I don't agree with you, whatever it is. But everybody's afraid of just getting... Like, there are people...
Well, it's the sponsors are worried about losing. It's the sponsors. It's not the actual... It's not they don't want to get a strongly worded email. They don't want...
Well, then the sponsors need to stand up or whatever. By the way, I'd just like to do a little plug for the Battle of Ideas, which is in London in a couple of weeks. You can go to the Battle of Ideas online and buy some tickets. It's a very, very good weekend of controversial discussion and ideas. On to the Times, Adam.
Please, no complaints.
where we've become a nation of atheists. Ironically, that might save us.
Yeah, so this is the Times. Britain enters its first atheist age as a number of non-believers surge. So I'm actually part of this demographic. I'm an atheist. What's interesting about this is they're sort of saying how, like, the people who are like maybe either religious or they don't pass on their religious beliefs to their children. What I think what's really interesting about this statistic and this story is we need to differentiate atheists from agnostics, as Jim Jeffries called them, the wishy-washy agnostics, and these annoying spiritual people. Being an atheist, a true atheist, is very lonely because you think there's absolutely nothing afterwards. You can't think, there's a higher being. It's and I'm a self-proclaimed lazy atheist or a dumb atheist because I haven't read all the scriptures, so I'm just taking a guess at it. I think
taking a punt.
In terms of actually educated atheists who've read all the religious doctrines and then come to it, there's probably one.
Well, no, there's they call Dawkins here an anti-atheist, which is interesting in terms of informed. But the argument is that they are putting all of those characteristics you said together, the kind of wishy-washiness, putting them all together. And I guess they're talking about people who follow an organised religion. That now, people who don't are the sort of are the majority.
Yeah. Well, they also said that atheists can also be defined as anyone who lives their life as if God does not exist, which is kind of like me and my student loan. I just sort of pretend it's not there, do whatever I want, and just hope for the best.
But with the student loan, it almost definitely does exist, and it will come for you.
But the weird thing is that in Judaism, you can be religious and not really believe in God still. But
that's the worst.
The focus is more on carrying out the rituals. But I know that seems really weird.
No, but that kind of makes sense. And so, doing the work,
doing what the ritual is, though. Like, if it's give to charity, great. If it's don't mix cotton and silk or whatever the thing is, that I do know, then certainly don't do that if you don't believe in a spiritual element to the universe.
Yeah, it's interesting. This also changes the narrative before we move on. That there's been this idea that Christianity is on the decline. There's people out there who are going, oh no, the Muslim birth rate, and looking at that and seeing the increase of that. There's obviously less of a drop-off in Islam. There's arguments because it's more this is what this article is really about, is passing on your religion. And also, Islam has certain safeguards within it that prevent people leaving, i.e. apostasy, and you could be killed, and depending on your denomination and whatnot. Yeah, exactly. But what this is saying is, there's this argument that Islam's going to take over, or some people say that. This article's not saying that. This is saying, actually,
more people are
atheism is going to take over. There's not going to be a religion. That's the majority.
Well, everyone's going to be believing in crystals by the 2020.
Nothing wrong with crystals.
Topaz can heal.
Daily Mail, Jonathan, and now a story about a man who is clearly bad, possibly dangerous, and even a little off the wall.
Nice. See, I don't make Michael Jackson jokes because they never land. New York Republican once dressed as Michael Jackson in blackface for Halloween in bombshell that could shake up election. So a New York Republican representative, Mike Lawler, dressed in blackface while impersonating his musical idol, Michael Jackson, several decades ago. So the GOP lawmaker, he didn't deny that he actually used makeup to darken his face for the ensemble.
I mean, there was a photo evidence, but
yeah. It's not. He hasn't gone full Trudeau. He's gone sort of a respectful Michael Jackson.
He put on a bronzer.
Yeah,
I mean, surely you're allowed to put on a bronzer.
Yeah.
And also, this is white Michael Jackson. He's emulating.
No,
it was going halfway.
Well, it's all about the era. Which, if you're doing Jackson 5...
The photo they compared him to was black Michael Jackson.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but he'd had a couple of facial surgeries and he looked his best, in my opinion.
That was...
Before he got freaky with it.
Is that Michael Jackson, Eric? It really matters if you're black when white or something? I can't really remember how it goes.
Basically, his argument is, I'm just such a big fan.
But he is.
Yeah.
But that comes across in the article.
Yeah.
I mean, it is incredibly unfortunate that he chose the one black singer that he could have got away with just being white.
Yeah,
I know it is. What I think is funny is he's talking about such a fan. He actually turns out he went to court when Michael Jackson was being done in for, charged with molesting a boy and defending him. And that's the bit that's
with the blackface
that's
on as
fine.
well.
But this bit is the bad bit. Right. One more section to go where traffic snitches get what's coming to them and holiday makers staying in all-inclusives do not. See you there.
every Sunday from 11. Join Michael Portillo.
There'll be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Right, up and down the country, many parents are preparing or have indeed already sent their child off to university.
Indeed, but sometimes it can leave parents struggling to cope with the, quote, empty nest syndrome their child leaves behind. So joining us now to discuss how to cope with sending off your sprogs to university, or not so sprogs, is broadcaster and psychotherapist Lucy Beresford. Good morning, Lucy. Nice to see you this early. This is a real thing, isn't it? It's our colleague Paul Coitz, our sports expert, describes it as grief, sending your young adults off to uni and leaving the nest for the first time.
Yes, I think grief is the right word because it's an ending. And it's not just an ending with your relationship with your child. It changes from here on in. But it also is very much about your identity. Your identity as a parent is weakening. You'll always be that child's parent, but you're not going to have the same involvement on a daily basis. And so you're left to think, OK, well, what does my life look like going forward? What's my relationship? If you're in a relationship with a partner, how is that going to change? And like all elements of grief, there's going to be a bit of a process. There's going to be that transition period where you adjust to your new life, just as your sprogs, as you call them, are adjusting to their new, exciting phase of their life.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's kick this section off with Saturday's Express, where they've managed to make appreciating paintings even more boring, Jonathan.
Oh, that's very uncultured, Josh. That's not fair.
Sorry.
Secrets of mysterious girl with a pearl earring unlocked by brain scan. So the girl with the pearl earring has become one of the most famous portraits in the world, second possibly to the Mona Lisa. I've not seen it. I've only ever watched the girl with the pearl necklace. So neuroscientist Martin de Otter says your attention when looking at a painting is normally drawn to someone's eyes and then the mouth, and this is considered enough to make a snap assessment on them. But apparently with the girl with the pearl earring, because she's got eyes, a mouth and an earring, you go in a weird feedback loop, and that's what makes a painting so interesting.
I see.
So the fact that she's wearing jewellery makes this painting sublime, and it grabs your attention, and he says your brain explodes from all the attention it needs to give to her. It's truly exceptional. So ladies, if you ever want to just put on an earring to grab a guy's attention, you know what to do.
It's quite interesting how it triggers self-reflection, memory, spatial function, navigation, all of that just from this pattern that's created. I don't know, it's what art is. I don't know. You know, I think it's a really interesting story. Let's move on though to the Times, please, Adam, with a story about poly relationships. Back in my day, we just called it cheating.
Oh yes. Oh, sorry. So yeah, this is about forget the throuple. Now it's all about the polycule.
Polycule. Okay.
Yeah. So this to me is. Definitely, this is basically the idea that relationships are changing, everyone's becoming more progressive, no longer is monogamy's not cool, and no longer are thruples the thing. We're now having open relationships.
Yeah.
And I truly think this is born out of the housing crisis. I think people can't afford to have their homes. So now people are just thinking, shall we just be with each other?
It's never a hot chick. It's never.
Well, also the blokes. So they're called here. They call them. They call them mators or something like that. But metamors is the guys.
God.
But really, they're cucks. Surely.
For sure.
Collective cucks.
They call the woman the hinge, which is the most disgusting way to describe someone.
This all makes me feel a bit sick.
I refuse to give air to this. Why are we making it a thing?
Well, it's not us who are doing it. The world, society is degrading.
This is the world they want you to live in, guys.
This is the atheists, surely.
Yeah,
they're all like in their polycules, right? Times now, Jonathan, where apparently snitches get riches.
Yeah, that's not how it should be. So a teenage parking snitch becomes a millionaire folk hero. So this is a guy who is an 18-year-old. He's called Nicholas Mathai. He's an 18-year-old German busybody who has reported more than 10,000 parking offenders to police, and he's now a star. Only in Germany would dobbing your neighbours in make you a celebrity.
He's getting paid, right? He's doing all these like adverts and whatever, and he's reported 8% of his town for traffic offences. He's got to be hated.
Well, you know, when I first read this story and I saw this guy, I was like, thank God he wasn't around during 1939.
Yeah.
So, in the attic.
Well, OK, very quickly, finally, the Daily Star next, Adam, and all-inclusive hotels could be limiting booze. They better not touch the desert bar.
Yeah, so this is basically...
Did I spell it wrong?
No.
This is basically a story that British tourists, we're too loud, we're too noisy, and they're basically saying, right, not enough, too much alcohol for you, and they're limiting it. I think this is a good idea. I think this is embarrassing. This only seems to be affecting British tourists.
We can't handle our drink, is that what they're saying?
No, it's just we take the absolute pee. And obviously...
that's what being British is.
Yeah, but
I think this is
we should have more respect abroad, and then they stop treating us. We act like
I don't want to go on holiday.
The show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Saturday's front pages. The Times, staff to get more rights from first day at work. The iWeekend, you're just going to have to trust us here. The UK warning to Israel, attack on Iran, nuclear sites could drag region into war. The Guardian, police took bribes to help Al-Fayed persecute staff. And the Daily Telegraph, foreign aid cut sparks cabinet rebellion. Daily Mirror, Strictly Nick, I'm out. And finally, Daily Star, beam us up, Scotty. Those are your front pages.
That's pretty good.
That's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests, Jonathan and Adam. They are available for corporate bookings, so reach out to them. We're back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Andrew Doyle, Lewis and Nick. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, as we head into the weekend, we can expect to see lots of fine weather to start, but it is gradually turning more unsettled from the west, so we can expect to see some wet and windy weather over the weekend. And that's because this area of high pressure, which has brought us that fine weather to end the working week, is generally being replaced by low pressure as it moves in from the west. And we'll start to see this evening as outbreaks of rain continue to push into the northwest. This a little bit heavy at times, particularly towards dawn, and turning quite blustery under those cloudier skies too. But elsewhere across much of England and Wales, there'll be plenty of clear skies overnight, so turning quite chilly. May even see some pockets of mist and fog by the morning. So quite a different start in the northwest to start the weekend. Plenty of cloud around and some outbreaks of rain, and it is going to be turning rather heavy at times, particularly in western parts. Similar across Northern Ireland, a fairly cloudy start with those outbreaks of rain just starting to push into the west. But elsewhere, there should be plenty of bright skies to start the weekend. As I say, some pockets of mist and fog around, and it will be a fairly chilly start. And then generally, there is still plenty of fine and dry weather across the country, plenty of sunny spells and feeling warm where you catch the sunshine. But that rain will gradually move in more and more across Scotland, Northern Ireland, with those outbreaks of rain and still fairly blustery under those cloudier skies. And notice these brighter colours here, so some heavy rain moving its way into parts of the far southwest later into Saturday. But as I say, where you catch the sunshine with highs of 18 degrees, it should still feel rather pleasant for the time of year. Heading into Sunday, a fairly unsettled day. Plenty of cloud across the country with some outbreaks of rain. This too could be heavy at times, particularly across the southwest, southern parts of Wales later into the day. And that generally leads us into an unsettled week next week. Generally temperatures turning more towards average. So make sure you enjoy the sunshine while it's here. Bye for now.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good luck.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, this Sunday when I interview one of the most significant political figures of our era, Boris Johnson. Nothing will be off limits as we discuss his autobiography, Unleashed, and everything in it.
I failed to avert Megxit, but I did deliver Brexit. And I'm very, very happy to be on Camilla Tominey's show, Boris Johnson on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show on Sunday at 9:30 a.m. and again at 6 p.m.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss my big opinion. Mark Meets and my take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. Tonight on the show we've got political commentator Chloe Dobbs. She's going to be joined with our left in the corner, Benjamin Butterworth. We've got the leader of the Climate Party, Ed Gemmell. EastEnders legend Don Altman, he's Nasty Nick. And we've also got Billy Gunn, he's the director and owner of Imperial Heating. But first, let's go to the news.
Good evening. The top stories from the GB newsroom. Downing Street insists its deal to return the Chagos Islands to Mauritius does not change the approach to other overseas territories. It comes as Argentina's now pledging to gain full sovereignty of the Falkland Islands. However, the government insists its commitment to the Falklands is unwavering. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson told GB News he thinks the deal is crazy.
Islands being given back to Mauritius. Your reaction?
Crazy. I mean, I urge viewers of GB News to get out your maps, get out your atlases, check out the Chagos Islands, see where they are, see where Mauritius is. A long way away.
Yes.
What is this claim? It's nonsense. It's total nonsense. Why are we doing this? Sheer political correctness.
Sir Keir Starmer's announced what he calls a game-changing £22 billion funding package for projects that capture and store carbon emissions. Speaking to workers in Liverpool, he said the investment in so-called carbon capture clusters will create thousands of jobs, bring in investments and help meet climate goals. However, Green campaigners warn the move could prolong oil and gas production, with the projects not set to begin storing carbon until 2028. Well, following his speech, our political correspondent